with my own 3-hole punch. Yes.
I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, you can.
I think it's okay.
You like my OCD right now?
Correct. I did the same thing there. Mine
I
right
didn't
up
take your hole punch.
over on the counter here.
I didn't bring the electronic one, so.
All right. Look, it looks like me. I probably got one in the back of my car.
Did they get you something, Lori? Did they get you something?
Greg's on a hunt. On a hunt.
Yeah. She needs the timer. You have no timer.
I don't. All right. Call a meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the minutes show that we met in executive session before this meeting and on March 24th under the reason for personnel matters for specific employees, legal matter regarding a FERPA issue, and pending litigation between George Uhas versus the Tunkhannock Area School District, docket number 2022-19. Next item, superintendent's discussion.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome out tonight. I'd like to begin by showing my appreciation to our teams and our clubs. You know, we have so many students and staff that are dedicated to our district's extracurricular activities. Specifically, I'd like to offer some congratulations to our wrestlers that reached the state regional competition. I'd also like to acknowledge and congratulate our swimmers that participated in the state championships. Reaching regionals and states is an outstanding accomplishment. I was thrilled, so thrilled and so happy to be part of, or to be present at the high school for the drumline send-off for our swimmers that they received prior to their departure for states. All of our high school students and staff lined the hallways and wished them well, and the drummers were fantastic. I mean, everyone knows how strong our music programs are, and it was really a special, special event, and I'm glad I was present for it. I'd also like to acknowledge our robotics team. They recently won a tournament in New Jersey. Great job to Mr. Howell and his squad bringing home a championship. I was also thrilled to read an article in the paper about our high school esports club. Right after I read that, I came up to the high school. I asked Mr. Bosher to speak with our esports athletes, and I'll gladly, as part of the article, I noticed that it said that they didn't have jerseys. And I came up immediately and I said, I will gladly buy them jerseys. I want them to have jerseys for their competitions. I also spoke with Lackawanna College, and they have a very successful esports program, and they are going to come and talk to our high school students that are interested in esports collegiately. At our last meeting, I opened with an overview of my vision for ESSER funding. Throughout many, many discussions with my central office team, especially Mr. Shapolsky, it's clear that we have some planning to do before using any of that funding. Topics that were discussed tonight at the Buildings and Grounds meeting earlier will certainly have an impact on our utilization of that ESSER funding. I'll state again this month that we will not utilize any ESSER funding for the hiring of new staff or for any program that will have to be sustained after the duration of the grant. And just to give you a quote that was released this past December by PA Senate President Jake Corman and State Senators Kim Ward, Patrick Brown, and Scott Martin, they said, this is called, quote, "School districts should not use one-time federal funding to increase ongoing baseline spending." I fully embrace that statement. As soon as we have some more detailed plan for capital projects, a community meeting will be scheduled to discuss the specific ESSER allocations, and no ESSER spending will occur prior to the meeting with our community stakeholders. My plan is still to utilize this ESSER funding for summer academic programming for students, upgrades to our HVAC and ventilation systems, and the possibility of supplanting some salaries of current employees. Last month, I was able to confirm with the state that there's no curricular or programmatic requirements tied to the ARP ESSER grant beyond what a district submits or revises in their grant application. On another topic, I've had multiple inquiries from community members about our pool. I'm thrilled to announce that we're very close to getting the pool back open to our community. In fact, I think lifeguards are on the agenda to be appointed this evening. I know that many people will be happy to have the pool back open for our families. I'd also like to take a moment and congratulate our special ed director, Mary Beatty, on her upcoming retirement. Congratulations, Mary. You know, she has dedicated many years to our school district, and this will be her last board meeting. It's been a pleasure getting to know Mary over the last month, and I certainly wish her well. Thank you, Mary, for your service and to the students and families of our district, and certainly I hope you enjoy your retirement. Finally, I'd like to thank our families and community for welcoming me to our district. Like I said, I've only been here about a month, but it's very clear to me that I made a good choice in joining such a fine school district. I've enjoyed speaking with students and parents and community members, whether it's in our schools or when I'm frequenting some of the local businesses, or even when I'm buying Girl Scout cookies last Friday in front of some Mario's. It's great just interacting with our families. Everyone has been so kind and has spoken so positively about our community and our schools and our teachers. And thanks again to the members of our school board for giving me such a wonderful opportunity to serve the students and families and community of Tunkhannock. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. All right, we'll move into the public comment section of our agenda. A couple of just reminders about this. You'll notice that the guidelines for the public comment were updated in the board book. 4 minutes per person, per comment, period. When it's your turn to speak, please come up to the microphone, state your name, your municipality, and which agenda items you're speaking about. All residents must be taxpayers, all speakers must be residents, taxpayers, students, or staff of the school district. If you at any point feel the need as an audience member to object to any board action under the Sunshine Act, Title 65, Part 2, Chapter 7, please go to the mic, state your name as well as the section and subsection of Chapter 7 you believe is being violated. The presiding officer and/or district solicitor will make a determination on the stated objection. The determination is final for the purposes of this meeting tonight. With that, are there any public comments on agenda items? Come on up to the lectern and please state your name and municipality.
My name is John Brotzman, B-R-O-T-Z-M-A-N. I'm a resident of Tunkhannock. I was a substitute teacher here in November and December. I understand that in November, the school board passed a raise, substitute teachers from $80 to $105 a day. I worked 15 days during that period and never received that increase. And I was asking if we could find some way to give me the $375 worth of back pay that I believe I'm due.
Yeah, certainly, sir. I missed your name, though. I apologize.
John Brotzman, right?
See how good she is?
I just couldn't hear you. I apologize.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so the backstory behind that was that it was approved then, but it went into effect January 1st.
But it doesn't say that in the minutes. It says it's approved then. The fact that somebody, it doesn't say that it will be delayed. It says we will pay that now. And I was told at the school, generally speaking, if that is what happens in the school board, that's when it happens. Now, if somebody neglects to inform Kelly that that's true, then that would, and that's what Kelly said. Somebody dropped the ball and they never told him. So I think if I worked that and that was passed, that I'm due the $375.
I will have to, I'll look at not just the minutes, but the actual wording of the motion from that board meeting. I will take a look at it though and see.
Well, you're a good man. I'll do something nice for you someday.
What's that?
I said, you're a good man. I'll do something nice for you someday. And I know you're all elected officials, and I had no idea that we elected such a handsome group, very good-looking and well-built young people here. It's nice to be in front of such a crowd as that. I won't be doing any more substitute teaching, I guess, because I had an incident one day. A little girl came up and she wrapped her arms around my legs and she looked up at me with the sweetest, most naive and innocent face and beaming, and she said, "I love you." And I told her the same thing, and I gave her a hug back. And then the next day they ran me out of the school and said I couldn't teach anymore. Personal opinion, I suppose you have your own ways of doing things, but my opinion is if a little kid says I love you and gives you a hug, it's not the right thing to push them away. I think the right thing is to return that. If somebody says that's the wrong thing, I disagree. The next day I understand that they called the cops on me. Now, if anybody thinks that a little kid getting a hug from a substitute teacher in return for what I saw is just pure love. She was a little buddy. She thought I was the greatest thing in the world. As soon as I came in the class for half a day, she comes up to me and she goes, "I'm glad you're back. We missed you." She was my buddy. And if somebody thinks that that's a criminal act, I'd say I'm struggling with my language here. I think it's a very, very bad thing.
If you want to send an email to Mr. Doherty, we can look into what that situation was.
I don't know which one's Mr. Doherty.
Our superintendent. So it would be paul.doherty@tasd.net.
There's no way I can spell that, you know that.
It's on the website.
It's on the website.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Very good. Yeah, I've tried contacting the school to discuss it, and I can't get anybody to respond to me. I've never heard from them, not one word, since I was run out, from anybody at the school. Nobody. And I asked Kelly, and they gave me this very, very vague description of what was going on, but I've emailed, I've left voicemails, and finally I got a call from Kelly that someone at the school had told them to tell me that I was not to contact anybody at that school anymore.
Well, send that email to Mr. Doherty, and we can follow up on that with you.
I appreciate you treating it so kindly.
Okay.
I was very, very hurt by all of this.
No, I understand that.
Especially not being contacted, not a word, you know. It's like you're pushing a guy off on an ice floe if he's an Eskimo.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate you.
No, thank you, Mr. Rothman. Other public comment? There you go.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Let's see. So my comments are going to be on some of the minutes. We had a faculty member speak at last board meeting, thanking the board for supporting the teachers, and I thank you for supporting teachers too, but I believe that there's a misinterpretation that it's not that some of the troubles isn't that we don't support the teachers, we don't support teachers who break policies. So if this book thing keeps coming around, the idea is not the efficacy of the book or the language in the book. It might be some for other people, but when you have faculty members, administration, knowing of something wrong for 2 years and nothing's done about it, that's a policy that's been broken. That's my policy that was implemented by you, and I expect us to enforce it, and there should be sanctions. Not thank you for supporting teachers. We get it. I support teachers. I support that guy, Mr. Brotzman. If my kid wants to hug you, sir, and tell you that I love them, they're having trouble that day, and I want you to love them because that's social emotional learning there. Social emotional learning has been hijacked, and that's a perfect example of it. But when these teachers want to teach hate and bigotry in your class and break the policy while they're doing it, and you do nothing about it for years, that's going to stop, and I promise you it's going to stop. So Mrs. President has a silly post up where she's antagonistically saying, look at my book read during my vacation, antagonistically drawing us out. It's not about the book, Mrs. President. It's about you not knowing for years about the policy being broken, and then you're going to joke about it. You're going to stop doing it. Someone's going to admonish her eventually because you're going to learn how to admonish her. because that right there is antagonistic, that will cost her politically, and it will cost the district money, because people are going to FOIA request the hell out of things, want to know more, because not only that, but she trains people on how to be secret and how to avoid public records, because I can prove that through the FOIA request I got. So she's teaching people in this district how to be secretive, to avoid public records, so we can't find out this dirty filth that's happening in the school by administration and allowing it to happen. So the Citizen Advisory Group has advised you, and they helped you. We now have 2,800 members. We are now incorporated. We can now take donations formally as a 501c3. We're not done. This is going to get right, and you will perform lawfully as a board and protect us from garbage that might come in. Mr. Doherty, I know, is going to protect us. I can feel it. Thank you very much.
Any other comment on agenda items? Okay. Page 7 and 8.
Holly?
Oh, Holly,
I've got one, sorry. I just have a question for Mr. Doherty. You said that there was going to be a community meeting scheduled after you were going to be having discussions about new hiring of staff. You said there was not going to be new hiring of staff. Could you just review that a little bit about with the ESSER money? No hiring of new staff, but...
I will never hire staff with one-time funding.
Oh, okay, you were just talking a little fast. I just wanted to get that clarified.
Yeah.
And you said about a community meeting.
Before any of that ESSER money is spent, we
Okay.
have not spent any of the ESSER 3 funding. Before any of it is spent, we want to have a detailed plan of what we would like to do, and then we want to present that plan at a public forum, at a community meeting, to solicit feedback.
Okay, and that community meeting will be advertised somehow?
Absolutely.
Okay. We just want to make sure, and will students be invited to that as well?
I want everybody to come. I
I
hope
would-
staff come too.
I would encourage you to have students there, because they don't seem to be involved, and really, this is about our students.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. So.
Me too. Me
Thank you.
too. That's why I'm here too.
Thank you. I'm sorry I forgot to say my name's Sheila Donnelly. I live in Tunkhannock Township.
Hi, Sheila.
Thank you.
Nice to talk to you.
You too.
Any other public comment on agenda items? Okay. Moving on to enrollments, they're available for your viewing pleasure on page 7 and 8. Item number 6, approval of minutes.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second?
and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
yes.
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 Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. As a reminder to all the board members, make sure your mics are on if you haven't already checked that, and that when you speak on anything, make sure we're into the mic so everybody can hear. All right, item number 7, business and finance. Do we have a motion for any of the items under business and finance?
Motion for approval of items 1 through 6?
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on business and finance? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Widener?
No.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 8, superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. I'd like to point out first with the number 1 item listed underneath there, and I'm proud to say I learned something new today. You will notice under the first resolution that it says pages 58 through 71 in the packet. However, pages 59 through 71 are omitted because they are personnel documents that are retirement letters or resignation letters that are not for public consumption. So I learned something new today, and I would like to thank our solicitor for teaching me. But number 1, I'd like to recommend a resolution be adopted approving the personnel report as presented.
Motion to approve.
Do you have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion for item number 1 of the personnel report, page 58?
No, these teachers have spent many years here, and we certainly appreciate their time and service that they've given to the district.
Absolutely. And I will say that I do really like this new approach of the personnel report being this way as opposed to individual items. If there were ever anybody we had to, somebody needed to abstain, we could pull them out and have them be separate. But this is nice because for anybody who's looking at it, it shows you specifically who's leaving, where they're going from, when it's effective, and then are we replacing that person? Is it a new position that we're creating? What is the salary base? So it gives you a better picture of all of the changes happening in one fell swoop as opposed to piecing it together with separate resolutions. So thank you, Carolyn and Paul, for that. Any other discussion on item number 1? Roll call, please.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Widener?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes.
Item number 2 under the superintendent's report. Before I even read the next resolution, I just want everyone to know the extensive thought that I've given to the next agenda item. You know, the district lost a leader in Shane Powers when she left in December. And as I thought of the necessary skill set that I would want in our next COO, the skills I would want them to have, it became clear to me that the person was literally right in front of me. Dr. Charles Suppan is my choice. He, in addition to being a dynamic educator, he was a business minor in college. He has a business mindset. He keeps his focus on how decisions will impact our bottom line. I've had the pleasure and the benefit of knowing him for many years. We've worked together previously. He's intelligent, loyal, dedicated. He has the rare ability to see the big picture. He possesses an outstanding work ethic, and I'm very confident that he'll always have and prioritize, he'll prioritize our students, families, and taxpayers. So therefore, it is with great excitement and enthusiasm that I recommend a resolution be adopted approving Dr. Charles R. Suppan as Chief Operations Officer, effective 7/1/22, salary $118,500.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I think this is very exciting. It's very exciting to watch our superintendent build his team. And Dr. Suppan, we expect big things, sir. So, any other discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Widener?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item number 3. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Item number 3, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving conference attendance as follows. Tara Kasparowski for PMEA Annual In-Service Conference, $625. Kevin Kreinberg, PMEA Annual In-Service Conference, $282.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Widener?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Committee reports. Mr. Franco.
We have Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting before this board meeting. Mr. Shapolsky went over the RFP program with the Guaranteed Energy Savings Group with a recommendation that we get proposals for a Guaranteed Energy Savings Program. He also discussed the capital projects that are already done. There was no big projects still going on. And he gave an updated list of projects possible that will be paid for with the RFP program and the Guaranteed Savings Program.
Were there any other committee updates needed tonight? All right, we have nothing under item 10 for unfinished business tonight. New business. Number 1, the TASD Visa account is listed there for your information on page 76 and 77. Item number 2, the summary of Kelly's Services substitute teacher fill rate is available also for your information on pages 78 and 79. Item number 3, recommend a resolution be adopted approving an overnight field trip as listed. First one, A, grades 9 to 12 CTE students to Hershey, PA for Skills USA state level leadership competition. And item number B, letter B, sorry, grade 12 student to Pocono Mountain East Junior High, Kalahari for the PMEA All-State Band Wind Ensemble.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Widener,
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Eckerd,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Item number 4, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the purchase of PAETEP software platform. PAETEP is a comprehensive suite of teacher evaluation tools that is fully aligned with the PA Department of Education. The cost is $10,784. Do we have a
Motion to
motion?
approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Eckerd,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Widener,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. As much as Mr. Arnold would definitely like to have a vote here. Now, item number 5, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the independent audit report of Murphy, Doherty and Company for the 2020-2021 school year. This is the audit company we have used for the last several years, no relation to our new superintendent. This audit is posted on the district website already, and we had paper copies over there for the community tonight if they'd like to see it. Do we have a
Motion to
motion?
approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Eckerd,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Widener,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Item 6, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving an articulation agreement between Lackawanna College and Tunkhannock Area High School for high school graduation years 22, 23, and 24.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckerd,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Widener,
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett, Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Item number 7, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the Luzerne Intermediate Unit's policies and procedures and use of funds by school district.
Motion to
Motion to
approve.
approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Widener,
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Eckerd,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Number 8, recommend that a resolution be adopted authorizing Paul Doherty to authorize and directly sign any and all contracts, agreements, grants, and/or licenses with the PA Department of Education.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Widener,
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Eckerd,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Item 9, recommend budget transfers as presented for the following departments, details as presented. Security, $2,505 and $100. Maintenance, $36,601.50. Athletics, $3,130, $5,870, and $600.
Motion to approve it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Widener,
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Eckerd,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Item number 10, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the sale or auctioning of the obsolete unused equipment as listed. You can find the list in the agenda.
I'll say motion to approve. My preference would be an auction.
I'll second it. Let John take care of it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion other than what's already been listed? Roll call, please.
Mr. Widener,
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Eckerd,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Item 11, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the disposal of the obsolete, unused, or unusable equipment listed below as
Motion to
available
approve.
in your agenda. Motion to approve. We got a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Weidner,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. Item 12, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving a revised board meeting schedule for the remainder of the 2022 year as presented, page 99.
Hold on a second. Basically going to one meeting a month?
One meeting a month. And it looks like it's pretty much primarily the second week of the month. With the exception of December, we have 2 meetings because we'll have reorganization on the 8th, and then we'll have our regular board meeting on the 15th.
Okay, I go along with that, but it'd be my preference to have the dates that we took away from, have that for committee meeting nights.
Yeah, committee meetings can be scheduled anytime, so if you want to use them,
Well, they kept pushing them on board meeting nights and just dragging things out. I'd rather have them so you could sit there and do them. and
Separately.
Have a good agenda that way. That'd be
So-
my preference.
when we did the committee assignments, every single board member is now the chairperson of a committee for the year. So I would just ask everybody to keep that in mind if you're going to call a committee meeting for your committee. Look at the calendar and see if there's a way to put it on the opposite night of the school board meeting.
On the ones
When
that we took
possible.
away from.
Yeah. You mean you don't want to be here at 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock?
No, ma'am.
Look at Bill Wider having something better to do than hang out with us.
You know what? Puppy dog has a
Yes.
say in this.
Understood, yes. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel,
Yes.
Mr. Weidner,
Yes.
Mr. Farr,
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold.
Yes. And now we're just going to talk about a whole bunch of things. Item number 13, discussion of the vacant high school ag mechanical position. Mr. Doherty?
Hey, thank you. And I do have Greg Ellsworth here, Mr. Ellsworth, who's in charge of our outstanding CTE program. You know, since our last board meeting, I've had multiple members of our community just reach out to me regarding, and correct me if I'm wrong, we had an ag teacher retired and then that position was not filled, about the possibility of having that program reinstated. And actually, we've had multiple meetings about this. Certainly, I want to meet the demands of our kids and our community. And, you know, I learned a lot just in the last couple weeks in talking about this. And Mr. Ellsworth is in, I guess, one of the primary spots you get candidates to fill these positions is Penn State University. And typically, they have somewhere between 10 and 15 graduates yearly. Last year, there was 10 graduates that account, and within those 10 graduates, they had hundreds of job offers. Hundreds. This year, it's slated for 13 graduates at Penn State, so we could assume that they're going to get those same kind of opportunities. However, Mr. Ellsworth kind of may have come up with a solution for us, and it's a pretty good one. We were talking to the state about potentially how we get staff members that are currently here certified to teach those courses. And they provided us with the process. And, you know, I don't want to speak the staff member's name yet because, you know, we're working on them a little bit. But there is someone that has a farming background, still runs a farm, currently on our staff, that has shown some interest in obtaining that cert for us, that certification. So that would open a lot of doors. It would allow the ag program to get, I guess, back on its feet, but it would also allow for our FFA charter, because I've heard a lot about, you know, our FFA, the history of FFA in our district, and it would allow for our FFA charter to get back to active status, which is big for our students. And we're hopeful that we're going to get a good result, and Mr. Ellsworth will be, the student scheduling process for the high school starts around Easter. So he'll be reaching out and talking to students about their interest in the ag and ag mechanical positions, but we're confident that we might have a pretty good solution. If anybody else would like to comment or ask questions, or Mr. Ellsworth, if I'm not sharing anything, if you would like to share anything with the board, because you certainly are more knowledgeable than me.
Now, we currently have 72 kids, 72 students in our welding program.
Right. Yes, the recruiting piece is what appears to be the big obstacle. So if someone is already in-house that we can get certified, I mean, I see that as a win for our kids.
Absolutely.
Yes, and that great goal of mine, the FFA program was fantastic.
I've heard lots about it over the last couple of weeks.
I mean, if for just to get the hay rides back at the county fair, I mean, that,
But, thank you. I just wanted to make everyone aware of that.
So I had one quick question though. If whoever that is gets certified, would we have to backfill their current, whatever their?
No, not necessarily. I have a plan for that too.
Oh, okay.
No, we are thinking ahead a little bit, but yes.
I know I ask you that for every
Yeah.
position. Now you figured out my role on the board.
It's a
We
good
have to
question.
backfill.
It's a good question.
All right, thanks.
all right, any other discussion on that item? There's nothing that we need to vote? It was just a
No,
discussion?
no, I'm not asking for a motion on anything. I just want you to know where we're at and just that community members have been reaching out to me.
All right, item 14, discussion of expansion of the summer programming.
And this came out of, I think, a discussion that happened here at one of our meetings, or one of the meetings before I may have even started, that we had talked about some of the groups of students that were probably most affected by COVID were students that were in our CTE programs. So why not offer summer enrichment opportunities for students? And again, in talking to Mr. Ellsworth, he suggested metal fabrication and welding that, he thinks he'd have a fair amount of students that would be interested in some summer programming for that. So, I mean, we're going to roll that into what we currently do for our summer programming that's offered through ESSER funding, and I think that's a pretty good opportunity, and hopefully some students would want to take advantage of that opportunity. So that's the plan that we're going to, I'm going to be working with Greg and see what summer enrichment things we can offer.
Great, any other board comment or discussion on that item?
Is the summer programming specifically for students that are behind, or?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, like not a summer school, not a credit recovery, because that'll be something separate. We'll have a credit recovery that we do with students that might be behind in credits. This is just an enrichment opportunity. If kids missed out when we were virtual on, like Greg tells me all the time, you can't weld when you're virtual. You can't fabricate metal when you're virtual. And he's, quite frankly, he's right. So this would just be an enrichment opportunity for those students if they wanted to come in and have more exposure and work on that skill set, that we'd like to make that available for them. So hopefully we'll get kids to sign up. I guess with high school, you never know. Some of them, they get jobs, they work all summer, or, they're playing sports and traveling. But if they sign up, we want to be able to offer that opportunity.
That's great, because that was a very big problem last year, and, one of my own kids was in metal shop and was in a hybrid program. So the metal shop teacher did the best that he possibly could with that circumstance, so it's certainly not a judgment against him.
Right.
But there's only so much mental work you can do on a hands-on project.
Right, and you know what, and really, these meetings are very valuable for me because that's feedback that came directly from the community. And, I'm always certainly open to that, and it really is a great idea.
It is a great
That's
idea.
something that if it was not said here, I probably would not have thought of that. But, when something comes up, the first thing I do is I'm going to talk to my team. With something with CTE, I go right to Greg because certainly I'm not the expert there. He is. And, if he's saying that he thinks he has some kids that would like that opportunity, great. And what do we have to do to make it happen? So we might as well take advantage of that ESSER funding for summer program, just like we do with our younger students.
Great. All right, if there's no other comments on that, we have number 15, the discussion of the district's comprehensive plan.
Our comprehensive plan in Tunkhannock, due to COVID and some other factors, the due date kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. It is now due at the end of April. Currently, it is on our website, if anybody wants to check it out. It is out there for public to view it for 30 days. At the next board meeting, I will be asking the board to approve that so we can get it submitted to the state. And then, believe it or not, in the fall, we will be starting the process all over again because now we'll be back on a regular schedule with the the next 3-year comprehensive plan will be due, I think, at the end of March of '23. Mary Jean, if I'm correct. So we'll be starting that process again. But I just wanted to make the board aware that it is on our website, and certainly our public aware that it is on the website, and I'll be bringing that up for a board vote next meeting. It was a comprehensive plan that was written by our previous administration, but it just had not gotten far enough along in the process to get it posted publicly and then up for a board vote. So that'll be coming next month.
Okay, any other board discussion? Item number 16, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving the bus and van contracts as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett? Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, number 17, discussion and possible motion to approve a gas price cap for transportation contractors.
Obviously, we all know that gas prices are exceptionally high right now. Again, in just speaking with contractors and speaking with Karen Delancey, who's our Director of Transportation, apparently in 2008, when there was also a huge spike in gas prices, the district did cap the price that they would charge the contractors for gas. It was $3, and at that point in 2008, it was $3.50 a gallon for regular gasoline, and it was $4 a gallon for diesel. We ran a report just for the last 30 days. If we had done that for the last 30 days, it would have reduced gas prices for our contractors by $669. Not significant when you figure it was, the gas charged was $28,032. So, I mean, gas, we don't pay the same amount for gas that the consumer does, that the public does, because we don't pay tax on it. So our prices are not as high. But I guess I was just looking for some guidance, being that our board has taken action previously, 14 years ago on this, or do we just kind of take a wait and see approach on this?
I don't remember exactly how we worded that the last time.
I don't know, and I don't know how you would,
Back that far.
I can't offer you any guidance on what the cap should be. Like in 2008, someone came up with $3.50 and $4. I mean, I would have no way of knowing.
So what is the untaxed price of gas right now? Do we know what we're paying?
What do you take, 58 cents off for gas?
Something like that.
Is that what I heard the state say?
I don't, I mean, it's,
Yeah, I'm not-
I'd have to get you more information
Yeah,
on
I'm
that.
just not sure what the gap
It
is
was-
between.
We only went over it the last couple days of the 30 days we looked at. It was like, here it is, a dime difference. So we were being charged $3.60, and we would have had a cap of $3.50. So we would have been discounting 10 cents a gallon.
About 60, 70 cents difference probably.
And that
And
was
taxes.
12 years ago.
That was
Yeah, it was
14.
08.
But the
Yeah.
difference currently is the
I
difference.
believe it was no
Oh,
way.
right, but I'm saying the last time we did it at $3.50, that was 12 years ago, or more than that.
But the numbers are higher now than they were then.
Right, the numbers are higher now, but there's also inflation and changes to the reimbursement and all those types of things that have happened since then. I am not the person, I could sit here and throw out a number, but I would be speculating and outside of the realm of my expertise, so,
I mean, if the board would like, I'd be happy to put this motion back on, or this discussion back on again next month. I mean, I wish I had a good recommendation for you. I always want to be in a position to offer you a recommendation, and I just don't have one.
Yeah, I think if we knew what our financial exposure was going to be, that could make us either comfortable or uncomfortable with a decision one way or the other.
Right.
If you're talking $600, I don't have an issue with it.
Right.
If you're talking $10,000, where's it going to come from?
Right, and that's the unknown. If whatever went up to $6 or $7 a gallon, like, this would be significantly higher.
Can
So
we,
I understand their position of, it's got to be hurting the bus contractors, but it has to come from someplace as well. We have the same issues.
Right?
can we, as part, my preference would probably be that we put it on the next agenda, and can we pull each of the districts that touch our boundaries?
Sure.
And find out how they're handling it?
Absolutely.
I've gotten my notes here from a couple of years ago in the Transportation Committee that the state reimburses us roughly 70% of our cost, and it's, what, a year later, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, that's,
Some, in that area? There might not be perfect numbers, but I think that's pretty close.
That's the number I've heard out there, thrown out there too, but that wouldn't count, like that's gonna be on a set schedule, that's not gonna count something like this if we have additional expense, that's gonna completely hit the operating budget.
It's like a 2-year lag, that reimbursement.
Yeah. And they wouldn't reimburse a cap.
Most likely not.
so, I mean, so unless, the board wants to entertain a motion right now, or want to put forth a motion right now, I'll put it on next month's agenda, and I'll look into how our neighbors are handling this.
We need to get a little more information
Okay, I agree.
to get this
I agree.
going forward.
Yeah.
So do we have anybody with an interest of making a motion?
Not this time.
Okay.
Here's how the LIU at last night's board meeting, you can keep that just to look over of how they're doing things.
Did you hide your microphone?
No, I don't have one.
Take Fabola's.
There's one next door.
She was passing off the information about what the LIU did at their board meeting yesterday.
That's what we approved down at the IU board meeting last night,
Okay.
and you can have that.
It just for the public, it appears that the LIU is offering, and this is just after a first glance, is offering a stipend to their drivers. No.
Okay, so we'll hold that over, we'll get more information and discuss it at the April meeting. Along those same lines, item number 18, discussion of late run activities transportation.
Yep, I had a couple people reach out to me since our last meeting, also inquiring about why our district does not offer transportation, an activity bus, after sporting events or after sports practices. I did a little research, again, in talking to our director of transportation. We used to do this some time ago, and it was not utilized. There was times where there'd be 0 students on the bus, or 1 or 2 students on the bus, or 3 students. A suggestion was made to me that potentially, instead of having a bus, maybe it's a van that does that, and we would have to designate some drop-off spots. But again, I would just like some feedback from the board as to which direction you would like me to take this in.
I think it would be very beneficial if we look into the vans, but we have to have, I've had a few parents reach out to me over late run, especially from the Falls Lake Manola area. We would need a committal from those parents that, yes, we're going to utilize it. But I think looking at a van, what's a van, 12 passenger? 10 passenger?
I guess it depends on the size of the van, but yeah, typically.
And it would definitely save the cost of a regular 72-passenger school bus. But I would personally like to see that we have a committal from those families that, yes, we need, district transportation for after-school activities. It may even want to be something that you put out on a survey type thing, like
Sure.
who would actually utilize this, maybe have the coaches talk to the teams, who
Yeah.
actually would be interested in utilizing.
Because I think this would be available not only to our athletes, but also to our clubs.
Right.
If someone's meeting with the club after school, well, we could put out a survey.
I think a survey is the right
Sure.
first step. I'm inclined to think, depending on the results of that survey, that, you know, if we have a cluster of 5 families or something like that, like, maybe it's best served by arranging for carpooling amongst those
Correct.
families. Because when you're talking about using vans or something, you're pretty much talking about having to have a sign up in advance. Because you couldn't have this fluctuation of, well, this day we have 4 kids, but the next day we have 16 kids,
Well,
and
it
now we don't
depends.
have enough seats for them.
It depends on, that's why I said we'd
Yeah.
have to get some kind of committal, because it depends on, you know, the girls softball team might be away, but yet baseball,
It's home.
those kids
Yeah.
need a ride home. Volleyball kids might need a ride. So it would depend on what day and what activity is, if there's a game or not. But we'd have to see if there's a family interest for the utilization of a van.
Sure. I mean, I think a survey is probably a pretty
Yep.
good suggestion. Mary Jean and I will work on putting a survey together, get it out to get it out to our parents, and so we'll report the results at the next meeting.
Yeah, ideally, like, we need to identify municipality and.
Right. And we'll need to decide drop-off points, because we used to drop off at Mill City, Evans Falls, Mahoopany, which Mahoopany is still available. So we would definitely need to
Yeah, gotta make
talk
sure
to
that
businesses
part's
of, can we utilize your parking lot for a drop-off point?
Right. Great.
Any other discussion about the late run? 19, discussion of field trip guidelines.
Thank you, and I'm looking for some consensus, I guess, from the board, for some feedback. I'll start by saying this: I'm never one to make emotional decisions. So if I put out a directive and for whatever reason a decision is made to go another direction, so be it. And this is one of those times. I was very, very happy to relay to our school administrators to start doing field trips again with our students. I was thrilled. One of the only stipulations I told them was potentially avoid large crowds. You know, I think our community kind of benefits that we're kind of self-enclosed, right? I consider us like a bubble. And my fear was that if we go to an amusement park and there's 50,000 people there, that if there is any kind of COVID spike, the last thing I would ever want to happen is to come back and have some kind of damper on graduation. To me, the biggest thing we do is going to happen June 3rd, when when I stand up there and I certify graduates. Like, I'm so excited for that event. And I would never want to make a decision on a field trip and send students somewhere that could potentially put a damper on them. I've been speaking to people and I've been getting feedback, and our junior class wants to go to Hershey Park. Our seniors, I think a trip was already approved for our seniors in May to go to the beach. Certainly, if the consensus is to allow those trips to happen, I'll gladly sign off on all that. I just want the board to be aware of my rationale behind giving that guidance, because ultimately, I want to protect June 3rd. I think our next school year, 22-23, is going to be as normal as 18-19 as it possibly can be. I just wanted to make sure June 3rd was good. We could potentially look at saying yes for juniors and seniors and keeping our other students, I guess on smaller field trips. But I'm open to any kind of suggestions. Like, I had an 8th grade moderator come and say, can we have a picnic in the field? And I was like, absolutely. Absolutely, have a picnic in the field. I think there's experiences, and field trips are what makes kids excited about school. I'm not anti-fun, I'm not anti-field trip, not even a little bit. I just want to make sure that we end our year as successful as it's going right now. But I'm open to any kind of feedback and any kind of consensus or direction the board wants to give me. I am open to receiving.
I won't give mine yet, but I know that Dr. Perbola and Mr. Burke had both been in favor of allowing the junior class to do this trip and then evaluate going forward from there. What is the feedback of other?
You know, and in talking to Dr. Perbola, and I really respect Dr. Perbola, I respect everybody, but Dr. Perbola, having a medical background, he said to me, you got to remember that these are outside events. He's like, my opinion might be very different if this was a large indoor event that you're taking our students to. And he makes, I mean, it's a good point.
I say let them go.
Have at it.
It's time for normalcy.
So that comes with the caveat, of course, that nobody wants there to be some other thing. Like, but, I mean, if you had asked me 2 years ago if we'd even be having these conversations, I would have told you were crazy. I did tell people that they were crazy. Like, we're never going to close school. We're never going to do these things. There's no one on this board that's going to close anything. But, you know, if for some reason we have this huge spike here in our district around that time, plans might have to change. Like, we have to remain adaptive to these things. So I'm in line with what everybody else is thinking. Like, get them out there. If you told me there was definitely COVID at Hershey Park, I'd probably still send my kid and say, oh, we'll see what happens, and he'll go on lots of roller coasters. So I'm not saying that I'm opposed to that, but I just think everybody, you know, the organizers, the parents, the students all need to know that we still need to be adaptive going through the rest of this school year.
That's perfectly fine. I will speak to those moderators that reached out to me, and I'm happy to tell them that. Believe me, I've probably taken, I don't know, 10,000 students to Hershey Park throughout my career as a principal, and you know, I think that's what kids remember. I think kids remember events like that, and as long as our kids are safe, I want them to have every possible experience they could have, you know, as the school experience.
And I think everybody here can appreciate that you definitely didn't want to be the guy that came in here and greenlit something that like screwed up graduation. Like, you know, that nobody wants that to be the thing. So I think having a certain modicum of caution is advisable. But that's not to say that people are all necessarily afraid of COVID. It's that we know that there's just things that come from the choices that we're making right now. So
yes, and you know, and again, I reflect on every email I send out. I reflect on every discussion we have, and I reflect on a lot of my decisions. And this is one that, as I made that decision a month ago, and I was thrilled, and everybody's thrilled, they're going on field trips again. Now I just start reflecting after I'm meeting with people. And you know what? This is exactly what this meeting is for, to come together and have that discussion and find a consensus. All right, great. Good.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
all right, item number 20, discussion or information on right-to-know requests.
All right, great. We have received 0 right-to-know requests since our last school board meeting. And in fact, there's 0 currently outstanding. Carolyn and Mary Jean, Mrs. Egan, Mrs. Lawson, they fulfilled the last request or sent the letter out, the last request. So we currently have 0 outstanding. 6 out of the 90 we've received this school year, 62 have been fulfilled, 26 have been denied, 2 are partially denied or fulfilled, like part of it was denied and part of it was fulfilled. And I think we still have 1 outstanding appeal. And we did receive some more legal bills today as to the review of our responses, and as to date for this school year, we will have paid $50,218 in legal costs associated with right to knows, but currently I'm very happy to say we have 0 outstanding.
Wonderful. Any other comments or discussion on that item? Okay, item 21, recommend that a resolution be adopted terminating the services of Daigie McAndrew on the following time schedule: 403B termination effective July 1st, 2022. S125 flex spending for support effective 7/1/2022. S125 flex spending for teachers and Act 93 effective September 1, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Widener?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. Item 22, recommend that a resolution be adopted approving service agreements as listed. A, Omni and TSACG, as, I feel like this is an eye test that you've given me tonight, Mr. Doherty, just so we're clear. As the administrator of the district's 403B effective July 1st, 2022. Item B, the CBIZ proposal Q13637 as the administrator of the support S125 flex spending accounts effective July 1, 2022. CBIZ proposal Q13383 as the administrators of the teachers and Act 93 S125 flex spending accounts effective September 1, 2022.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? 2020, all right. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Goebel?
Yes.
Mr. Weidner?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Eckert?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mrs. Arnold?
Yes. All right, that brings us to our second public comment period of the evening. If you're going to come up to give public comment, even if you've done so many times in the past, please state your name and municipality for the record. Are there any public comments on any agenda or non-agenda items?
Sheila Donnelly,
Thank you,
Tunkhannock
Sheila.
Township. Okay, this is for Mr. Doherty again. Have you reviewed the comprehensive plan, or is this just the work of the former superintendent that you are
I was not
commenting
involved.
about?
I was not involved in writing that plan at all.
Okay, have you reviewed it in depth?
I'd be very briefly.
Very briefly, okay.
Yes.
And then I have a few more questions on that, the FFA that we were talking about that could be restarted again. Is there an opportunity to have a survey for the students? And I don't expect an answer for that tonight. I think Mr. Ellsworth would probably be the one to think about that one, and he probably knows a lot more than any of the rest of us. That was just a thought. Also, for the summer program that isn't academic, some of our band and art students probably were disenfranchised with the last couple of years. Could that be part of what we've been talking about tonight? Band and art. And then also, did I hear that someone retired? Was I hearing someone retired?
We had multiple retirements. It was on the personnel report in the agenda.
Okay.
There's like 8,
It's on
I
the,
think.
it's in that 141 pages somewhere.
Yeah,
Is it listed?
It's page 58, I think.
Page 58, yeah. It's actually nicely concised into a table now.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I've got one item. Once again, last month, we lost another retired faculty member, Mr. Jack Tinner, who was a history teacher here for many years.
I was one of Mr. Tinner's AP US history students. So that was a man who would give you the book at the end of your, like, so I think I took it as a sophomore. So at the end of your freshman year, you went and picked up your textbook because you had work over the summer.
Yep.
And he had every student in the class teach a chapter, which was pretty genius, if you think about that. But yeah, he will be missed. He and Mr. Penzick would chaperone the trips to Europe, and he was a very good teacher.
I don't know if you remember the multiples where all answers are correct, but one is more correct than the rest. So you
Yes.
had to really read the book to get it right.
Yeah,
Yes.
yep. All right.
Before I get started, my timer starts. Is there going to be anybody else that wants to speak? Because I don't want to... Okay.
So if nobody wants to speak now,
Good evening. My name is Jerry Jordan. I live in the borough. I wasn't going to bring this book up again because I feel like it's beating a dead horse. However, after months of listening to the constant degrading, All-American Boys and some of our teachers, I took the time to read it myself. I must admit, I was disappointed, but not by the book or its contents. I'm disappointed because as a mature, reasonable, educated adult, I know this book is way more than vulgar language. Some people are up in arms about that. I'm disappointed they did not take the time to read the whole book. They just chose those words. The vulgarity, as they refer to, it took me a long time to find it. It's there, it's no different than we hear every day. I realize this book is meant to teach teens and young adults to question what they see and not to be afraid to stand up for themselves and others. I feel it is meant to show them they can be a part of changing the world around them. In the book, Jill says, "But everyone's seen it, Quinn. It's all our problem." But what is that problem? Her reference had to do with racism. But I feel part of that statement could be asked about this book. What is the problem? What is wrong with young adults, our teens, reading, learning, and discussing real-life things that relate to the world around them, especially in groups with their peers and teachers who support them and allow them to speak freely? As a parent, not just a taxpayer, of a teen who has been required to read the following books. He was not in Tunkhannock for part of this, so before anybody behind me gets up in arms. But they were Hunger Games. Have you ever read the Hunger Games? 7th graders are not equipped for the Hunger Games. To Kill a Mockingbird. How about we pull that book apart? How about the multiple Shakespeare plays that our kids are forced to read that discuss murder and suicide in 9th grade? That's a real impressionable age for that. It's also a high statistic for suicide. Why are we not pulling all those books apart? I would have been thrilled for my son to read All-American Boys and understand it related to him. It's written in reality. If you take a poll in the high school, I will bet my life that you're going to be shocked to find out the kids relate to this book more than the adults. Reason being, our kids are more open-minded. Believe me, I understand the big issue being raised is the fact they're saying it wasn't in the curriculum and it was a secret. I'm here to tell you it was such a secret, I left a board meeting and walked right into a young lady holding that book in her hand. She asked me if I had ever read it. Her friends got in on the conversation. They all loved the book. They were thrilled to be reading it, and guess what? How much of a secret was it if she had it outside the school? So, me being me, I said, wait a minute. I'm surprised to see that book in your hand. Aren't you not supposed to take that out of your class? She was surprised I asked her that. Her teacher never stopped her from taking that book home, so how much of a secret was it? I'm not sure about that. I still will stand here and say, I, for one, would rather my child to read a reality book than all of that other stuff that they are forced to read that really has nothing to do with the day and times they live in. As for a social media post, I had to go back and look at that. I myself put a post up, and it was a little antagonizing. Sorry, I'll be quick. It just said, I would like to say I am very disappointed after reading the highly debated, vulgar All-American Boys. That was said with 100% sarcasm. This book definitely depicts the going on of most teenagers these days. The vulgar language is nothing compared to our classrooms, our hallways, our buses, and that parking lot. It certainly did not teach racism. I feel it taught just the opposite. Perhaps we need to relook at our curriculum. I think the book needs a voice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, by the way, Mary Beatty, I love you.
The reason I delayed before I was going to ask a question was I already have like 12 items, not including 13 with her. But I had 12 items prior to coming up here. I was going to ask the board for at least a 1 or 2 minute extension to my 4 minutes.
We'll give you 30 seconds like she had.
Okay,
So,
that's fine. I appreciate
4
that.
minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, that's my time. Will you start my time now, please? Yep, no. Would you start my time now, please? Mr. Doherty, well, first let me get that off my chest. So a very powerful statement was made tonight. That's a phrase that should be captured in the history books. A very educated person tonight on March 24, 2022 at 8:45 p.m. said, "What is the problem?" So I will let them know what the problem is. Policy was not followed. Done. Mr. Doherty, I'm asking for an in-person meeting regarding the comprehensive plan, so I'll email you and call also to make that request at your convenience whenever you can. Thank you, because there's a lot in there. It would take me an hour to go through it. Number two, Mr. Doherty, I had a chance to go to the Farm Bureau last night as a member of the Citizen Advisory Committee to try to enhance, not just replace our ag teacher, but maybe enhance that, because with those numbers we found last week about what our kids do in post-secondary, we'd like to see more of the kids get into the #1 revenue-producing industry, which is ag in Pennsylvania and in Wyoming County. So I went there, and there was a lady there that you all might know of because we've been participating, but for some reason we're the only school in the northern tier, because of the past administration not wanting to get on board. You can't find another one not on board with the Northern Tier Industry and Education Consortium. And I'll email this to you so I don't waste my time. There's no reason not to be part of this. They literally help get kids jobs after school. I mean, I don't want to take too much time. The Northern Tier counties, they integrate the education and employment process. That's real simple, but I'll get it to you in person. Number three, Mr. Ellsworth, if someone could ask Mr. Ellsworth, since I can't address him, have we ever had HVAC ag in our ag department? HVAC ever trained? Wonderful. You need to talk to that fellow back there. And then this Mr. Doherty too, because there was a plan there. Number four, is it possible to integrate an Uber-type technology? Are you part of the committee for the school buses, Mrs. Bennett? Is there a committee person school buses, yeah, who does that?
I'm the chairman for the technology.
Okay, who corresponds with the school bus people who like mix deals?
That's
Oh, okay,
Mr. Weiss.
so he might not know, but help him understand that maybe there's a way of integrating Uber-type technology with that late run. If you have a bunch of people on standby that can take Uber-type technology, blam, so you don't have to have a bus sitting there with nobody on it. Uber-type technology is kids go on an app, hey, come pick me up, and he says, geez, I got 15 kids wanting to get picked up. They know what size bus. Can't say no. I went to that that Farm Bureau meeting last night, and there was a 1963 Ford that was broken sitting next to a drone that was going to gas the field with its insecticides or whatever. So technology can meet us here. We might be behind, but technology can meet us with this Uber technology. Please help protect Mr. Doherty. Let him have, do not you dare take his stinking graduation away from him, because you can never be sued. Your sovereign immunity can never be taken from you over disease. It's not one of the 11 things. So no matter what this fella says here, he's not qualified. He walked you into plenty of problems. You get outside counsel, plan it now, get a donor, get outside counsel that will tell you that your sovereign immunity cannot be broken. Don't you dare take his graduation away from him because of some new COVID outbreak that's going to come. You cannot do it. I've heard board members say, and it's recorded, you go back and listen, I don't want to lose my house over this because people like this solicitor has warned you that somehow you're going to get your sovereign immunity broken. It's not true. Get outside counsel. Don't take that from him. Your board, Holly Arnold sat over the Building and Grounds Committee meeting, and there was violations in the Sunshine Law. There was no specificity, and there was lack of pertinent information, and Holly Arnold presided over that meeting, and she should know better.
I didn't, actually. I'm not the chairperson.
You presided, you were the president.
I did not preside over it.
You
He's the chairperson.
No, yeah.
You need to get those facts straight, George.
Yes, I know. You presided
time
over
this
that
up?
meeting. You were the president.
Thank you very much. I was present as a board member. Normally I've been not making comments to things, so there are a couple things I just wanted to add here. One, I want to thank all of the gratitude available, Mr. David Kahn, Attorney David Kahn, for being here for this district. He has offered wonderful guidance, and he comes a long way to be here, and our board is better for having him as a consultant with us. So thank you, David.
Thank you.
There was a comment made at the beginning of the meeting about an antagonistic post, and personally as a board member, I'm taking the stand that we don't lose our voice as board members, we don't lose our First Amendment rights by becoming a member of this board. And not everything that we say, even as it relates to district issues, is considered district business, because I'm also a taxpayer, I also am a voter, I also am a parent. And yes, I read the book on my vacation, and you shouldn't take that as an assumption as to what I feel about that book. And if my social media posts are that interesting to you, then let me know and we can start sending them to you directly. Because it's not a secret, I'm not ashamed of anything I say on there, and it's very silly that we're still having that. This district is moving in such a great direction. We have a great board. This board is working together so well. We have an amazing superintendent who has come in and he's changing things, and that's not to say that the way things were is not good, but it's exciting to be part of this time with the district. So thank you to everybody here. We're going to continue looking up. We're going to continue being positive, and we're going to keep doing the work of the district. So thanks, everybody. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.